inviting right here to moderate the session with, of course, a huge round of applause from everyone who's present here. Mr. Mandeep Singh, member EEMA, CEO and MD CPM India. He has been responsible for the strategic planning and development of CPM in India. The next person I would like to invite right here as a part of the panel is none other than Mr. Deepak Choudhary, member EEMA, founder, director, Event Capital. Okay, he's the one who co-founded India's first event management school, EEMAGINE. Well, you know what? That's what I was telling him. If I go on to announce his portfolio, his visiting card is actually four-sided. So I think I'll leave it at that. He is a serial killer or a serial maker of IPs. Give it up for Mr. Deepak Choudhary, please. Kind of. How many of you love sports? Anything difficult? This man raises his hand for everything. Good to know. Mr. Adnan Adeeb, member EEMA, founder and managing director, Volano Entertainment Private Limited. Well, he has been a fitness enthusiast and has a true calling. He realized his true talent calling at the age of 40 when he left his lucrative job and decided to do something which was absolutely entertaining. And today we all know it as amongst various other things, Devil's Circuit, which has various branches, about which, of course, we will be knowing. Let's give it up for him, please, one more time. Tarsame, Mittal, anyone who knows about music, talent management, this is the guy. One of the most preferred talent management firm in the Indian music industry. He's the founder of TM Talent Management, member EEMA, and of course, if you've heard about the Bollywood Music Project, BMP, and the second one, which is all about music, which is a conclave, which again talks about the Indian music industry. This is the man you have to look out for. And last but not the least, the man standing right there who stands tall, Martin DeCosta. Let's put it out. Give it up for him, please. CEO 70 EMG. And of course, we all have heard about 70 EMG, so I'm not going to talk about it, but someone who likes the roar and the rev of the bike, you have to be there at IBW, which is the India Bike Week, and he's the person who's behind that. So let's give it up for him, please. And I think having introduced this panel in kind of the short way I could, I now hand it over to our moderator, Mr. Mandeep Singh, to kindly take it forward.
Thank you so much. Thanks. If we try and answer some of the things, what makes it flavor of the season? Does it deserve to be flavor of the season? And how many of you probably will want to taste the flavor, right? And what totally will. That's the objective that we'll probably say. And I'm going to start with Martin, you, and I would want you to highlight two things, and I would want you to know why India Bike Week. I'm aware a little bit about it, but why? And what has been your journey to build, because it's your 5th year, what took in you and your organization to build this India Bike Week to where it is today? So, all yours.
Why? Bloody hell. Why? Okay, obviously this is not a kiss mic. So why India Bike Week? It sprung out of 2 or 3 areas. I mean, obviously the first and the most important in any IP, unless you've got Choudhary, is, and you've got 14 of them, is a direct, passionate love for the content of that IP. And for us, it was at 70 and it was biking, obviously. We loved the idea of, I mean, you go to 70NG, any of 70NG's offices, it's just a sea of motorbikes. And there's some of them really good bikes as well. And it was 2013 when we launched it. We started planning it in 2012, I think, and Harley was coming into the country, and the big bike guys were starting to come in, Triumph, etc. So that passion was there. You know, there were 2 or 3, 4, 5 guys and a girl at 70MG who just adored biking, and they were out every weekend. And for them it represented independence, and it represented independence from, you know, the sort of the tying down that their parents and their family groupings would try and keep them in on weekends, and biking allowed them to escape the shackles of the family in a sense, and just get out into the wild and be independent. So that passion was there. Now how do you translate that passion? That's the answer to the second bit of your question. The other point also, which was very important, at least it was important to me, is that I just lived, well, a lot of us lived through that 2000, 2007 to 2011 period of recession, And we lived through that period in 2010, I think, if I remember correctly, when marketing directors were giving us hundreds of briefs to develop with no intention of producing the events. You know, they were just keeping themselves busy. Do you remember that? It's kind of happening at the moment this year as well. It reminds me of 2010. Anyway, it just pissed me off, and so I started looking, I think probably at the same time as Deepak, just really very seriously about how do we break the stranglehold that marketing directors have on us. You know, when the briefs dry up, when the events dry up, and they do periodically. You know, they are at the moment, for example, for a lot of companies. How do you control your destiny if you don't own anything? And so that was for me a very, very strong driving force. I wanted to own at least some parts of our billing. You know, so if we're doing 150 crores or whatever it is, I want 30, 40 crores of that to be something that I control. So that it's there, I know it's there, I know that I just have to work hard at that, and that will happen regardless of whether there's a financial crash or whatever. So we started, it coincided with me getting quite hammered in a bar, in a 5-star hotel, with the managing director of Harley-Davidson, a guy called Adeeb, who was fabulous. And I just pitched him the idea. I said, listen, why don't we do a bike festival? Because bike festivals, internationally, internationally we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. In Germany, for example, or in America, they're going to bike festivals. And he loved it. So that was very lucky. I got the seed money from Harley, from him. But one thing I did say to him was, I said, it's not going to be a Harley event. I'm going to own it. We're going to own it. He was like, oh, okay. So that was the very start. I subsequently then made a mistake. I made a joint venture deal with a television channel, which was a fuck all idea. But less on that. We sorted that out now. The third. So there are 2 or 3 parts of the puzzle, right? One is the content. No, biking content is easy. Right? Second is the audience, and that's where I think India Bike Week distinguished itself, because we went out. We were bikers ourselves, right? So it was really easy for us to talk to other girls and guys who were also bikers. We knew the language. We knew the language they wanted to speak, and we liked the anarchy of the biking community. We loved it. You know, the fact that people go on YouTube and say whatever the hell they like. It was great. I love it, and that's a fundamental part of India Bike Week, of which more later when you were going to ask that question, the digital side. So the audience, of course, and then finally the money. Right? Can we afford it? With that Harley seed money, we thought we could. And of course, typically, like a lot of people who do IPOs for the first time, we overspent and lost a lot of money, but then we kind of planned for that. And we had done our business plans 5 years into the future, and we were consistently beating those business plans. We were making a little bit more money, losing a little bit less money than we assumed we'd lose. And what was also great is that the audiences kept growing. And we started learning things about IPR and about what attracts people. One thing that really surprised us, for example, was that a lot of people came to India Bike Week just to go shopping for their bikes. It was really bizarre. We never thought that. So suddenly that's become a hugely important part of the whole festival. So you learn as you go along and you get better. What was the second half of your question?
How did you build it? What went behind building it?
So the revenue streams, terribly important. Now India Bike Week, we were really lucky with India Bike Week because we could charge tickets, and quite a lot of money for tickets. We charge I think 3,000 rupees per person. We can charge for exhibition stalls, that shopping piece I just spoke about. Bikers drink a lot, so we sell a lot of booze on site. And then of course sponsorship. And again, one of the fundamental reasons why I certainly wanted to do India Bike Week was that I wanted to own the industry, right? Who owns biking? You know, the sort of the Delhi Auto Show kind of had something going. But we just saw this opportunity of being able to actually own the leisure biking space. And this year, with I think KTM coming on board and with some of the Indian brands coming on board, as opposed to just the big luxury bike brands, if you like, the big lifestyle bike brands, we're finally getting there. And I think it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where both Ducati and BMW Motorrad came to India Bike Week instead of the Delhi Auto Show. And that was for us, that was it. Okay, now we've done, right, we've won. So from this point on, it's just really about developing that further. And the very final point about how we built it is going back to that community. And I go on stage every year at India Bike Week, and I say exactly the same thing. I just say, you know, this is not our festival. We've got zero ego about it. This is your festival, I say to the audience, to the bikers. I say, you know, whatever you guys wanted us to do at this, just tell us and we'll do it. You know, we've got no ego. You own it, it's yours. And that sense of ownership is, I think, the fundamental reason why India Bike Week has been a success. I don't know, of course, apart from the fact that we're spectacularly professional and creatively brilliant, we do a great job. It is the fact that the bikers themselves feel it's their festival. So they don't think it's a 70 MG, who's the fuck is 70 MG? They don't care. You know, just it's irrelevant, right? It's our festival, is what they think. And that's the reason for an IPR like a Woodstock or a Coachella or a Burning Man or the great, or, you know, Glastonbury. They don't think it's, but you know, the people at Glastonbury don't think it's Michael Eaves' festival. It's their festival. They've been going to it for 18 years now. They love it. And the same thing is starting to happen in India Bike Week, slowly though.
Thank you. I think, yeah.
So 29th, 30th of November, Goa is India Bike Week. All of you should come.
Super. So I'm sure people have picked up a lot of points how some of your crew was keen on biking and they felt it was a sense of freedom, and you went about thinking how you can control certain percentage of the business which you have, which is, I think, a very, very rational thing. Why depend on what the marketeers give us, and then actually looking at the community and giving the ownership in their hands. But I think a lot of event people might be very, very keen on your statement that you got hammered and got your seat money, which is not a thing which you need to take on. So that's something interesting, because drinking and driving can be yeah. So great story of talking to a community which probably existed but never had their own belongingness to any particular IP. And that's what India Bike Week did. It gave people who were fond of driving, people who were fond of going for a long drive, or having own bike but not able to go to the drive but had a driver or driving sense within them, a platform that they can get associated with. A lot of these groups actually do individually exist. And I think that was one agnostic IP which came with all these groups could join in fact, ride in together and be a big part of it. Similar to this is another IP, and I would want Adnan to talk about that IP, which is of another community. As I mentioned, I was trying to know Adnan a little better by reading about him, which is surprise for me because the kind of person I am. Adnan is obviously a fitness person, Sanchali mentioned, but this year he's planning to be in the Ironman competition as well. So all the best from our side. Now tell us how this fitness thing in you led you to create an IP, and what kind of community you have created.
So I come from a non-events background. I used to be in technology. I was head of sales for a company called Potty Computers. We got acquired by iGate. That was 7 years ago, and I was moved to India as head of sales for Middle East and Africa. And as soon as I came back, I quickly realized that this is not fun. I work for a sweatshop with 3,000 people in my building. They all work for the same company. And like I said, I turned 40, I was becoming complacent, and I actually, more than fitness, I love sport. And what I wanted to do from the very beginning was to create India's biggest participative sports company by building formats or concepts that were disruptive in nature. And the reason I did that was because at that point of time, 7 years ago, there was a lot of money that was going into professional sport, whether it's ISL or IPL or Kabaddi or wrestling or TT, or there's a new league coming up every other week. But the problem was I could never see a model that was sustainable. And for me, what was important was to build a format that was skill agnostic. Essentially, I wanted to build a platform for anybody and everybody to go out there and get their moment of fame. So, like Martin said, for us also from the very beginning, the idea was, create a community of followers. For us at the Devil's Circuit, it was India's first obstacle race. The reason I created an obstacle was because I ran in a race called the Spartan Race 9 years ago as an early adopter in San Francisco. And I loved the concept, and I said, this is very, very cool. The world is becoming very closer to one another. It's through the internet, everything what works in the West will work in India. I came back, we gave this a flavor, an Indian flavor, created the Devil's Circuit, and made sure that every participant who took part, whether he was 16 years old or 72, that's the spectrum of representation, were essentially very proud in calling themselves a member of the tribe of Devil Slayers. Like Martin was mentioning, and this is essentially what I also believe in, they don't know who Bolano is, that was my company. They don't know who Adnan is. They were very, very proud that they were all members of the tribe of Devil Slayers. And surprisingly, 70% of the people who run, and last year we had 44,000 runners, are not fit. They're not fit, but they essentially realize that, this is what they want to do. They get essentially a reflection or a statement of what they are today and where they want to be. I just met this one individual, I met amazing individuals through this last 6 years. And the best thing about running my business or building a property is that most people still don't know me. They see me as the MC. I sometimes volunteer to be an MC on my own event. And I love it because, random people come to you and say thank you. It's in what, 16 years of working in technology, I never had one client of mine come and say thank you. Even though the ticket that I was selling was $500 million, that was essentially the minimum contract we would pick up. And here I was selling a ticket worth 2,000 rupees to 3,000 rupees. And if you bought the ticket before 60 days in advance, you get 40% off. So today, we go live on our calendar on 1st of April. Our season starts in September. We finished essentially in March. But on 1st of April, people start buying tickets for the Devil's Circuit, which will happen in Chennai in September or in Delhi in March, which is amazing for me. I mean, it's just a great satisfaction to know that, we've crossed 2 billion followers across social channels. We're the biggest running property in the country. And a lot of people now want to come to run the Devil's Circuit and say, hey, I want to get fitter, I want to get stronger, how do I go about it? And you'll be surprised to hear, I think I mentioned this to Vineet here, who's very supportive every time I come to group, and he says, next year I'll get you a big sponsor. 7 people last year, 7 people went and shaved their heads with my mnemonic. And one person got a permanent tattoo on his bicep, spending 24,000 rupees, and these are people I do not know. And the reason why I did that is because sport is emotive. And yes, we know what we do, we love sport, we're very pure and honest to our craft. So we ensure that, people come and have a fantastic experience. So one of the things that, we were very clear on, if we do this event, and by the way, you'll find this very hard to believe, we started luckily the business, when there was a sort of an upturn in business, and the best people to go to were developers. So we went to essentially IDEO, which based in Gurgaon, and we said we want to do this, the first edition of the Devil's Circuit, and this is what it is. It was me talking about my experience in the US. I said this is how we create it, this is what the tribe is going to be called, this is what you have to do, and yes, we do not want water from you, you need to write a check. For the check you get the title sponsorship, these are the benefits. We are like any other running property, like the Mumbai Marathon or the Delhi Half Marathon. And we said this is what we do. 9 weeks to the event, the marketing director gets cold feet and he says, Adnan, what if nobody comes? What if people get hurt? This could get bad PR for us, but we're not pulling the plug, but we're asking you to move to Ludhiana. They said, I don't speak a word of Punjabi, the furthest I've been is Chandigarh, that's where the Shatabdi stops. He said, no, the KRAs are different. I said, the KRAs may be different for you, but my revenue model is dependent on sponsorship and ticket sales. But anyway, I didn't have a choice. I ended up in Ludhiana. I was selling tickets door to door, 1,000 rupees, 1,500 rupees, but I spoke with passion. God, the early adopters had 1,400 people who came to this place called Sidwan Canal, which is outside the main city.
I was a part of it.
Oh, you were part of it? There you go. Right? So I'm assuming, you had a blast, you had a good time, right? So we did that in Ludhiana. We got covered on CNN, IBM, we were on NDTV, one thing led to another. We got more sponsors who came on board, and we built the property now. not just essentially as an offline event, but we've also created 2 television shows which have moved completely to digital. So our show, which is, we created another variation of the Devil Circuit because Indians have 10 more reasons as to why not to get fit or active than any other population, any other sort of nationality in the world. So we said, what do we do between April and September? So we created 2 television shows primarily to get Mandeep to come and send his team, his corporate team, to take part in a television show which required a fitness test. And we said the 3 people essentially in the team, the age total must be 90 or more. We created that, went on television, moved to YouTube last year, crossed 38 million views, went from 5,000 subscribers to 118,000 subscribers. So it's been a fun ride. We also have another show called College Frenzy. It's on the Sony Live platform. It's the hunt for India's fittest college. So one of the things that the team knows from my side is, be creative, come up with crazy ideas, but please make sure it is skill agnostic. The only criteria for properties that we create, means that people need to be fitness driven, right? If they can get to be stronger and fitter, they can come and participate, they can get their moment of fame. So that's what we've done. We've been very careful about not doing events. I mean, while yes, it is a fruitful business to do, for us from the very beginning, if it's an event for 1,000 people or an addition for the Devil Circuit for 1,000 people or 10,000 people, the investment of the setup is going to be the same. We will not cut any corners. So we've lost a lot of money in the initial years. Now, hopefully, things were looking good, but now the marketeers are giving us a runaround. Like Vineet, for example, I keep picking on him, but I met him twice in his office. But yes, hopefully this year, even though everything is looking very bleak, we will get.
Power to you, Adnan. Go for it.
विनीत कम आगे बैठो, हम सब ये पूछना चाहते हैं प्लीज
आ जाइए विनीत, देखो थोड़ी देर में I'll have to include you in the panel.
So yeah, like I said, anybody who's thinking about creating an IP, I think please do it in a space that you're passionate about. Do it for something that you are very particular or you understand the business, and have patience. This is not something that you should do because you want to make money tomorrow or next month or next year or the next 2 years. You have, and you will eventually make money as soon as you give an identity to the bunch of followers who follow what you've created. Right? So.
Thanks. And we were having a chat, and I think I really liked one thing which he said. And in any sport, you can be an extremely good sports person, but it might be very difficult for you to get to the top. You are a cricketer, you are a hockey player, you are a badminton player, you are a tennis player. There are enough parameters and situations which are there for you to get to the top. In this case, what he said, I want a common man who believes in fitness. He should get the moment of glory, and they should be able to win. And I think that's really, really nice. And what is, yeah, go ahead. What is also interesting is you are in 8 cities now.
We're in 8, but what the thing is, I'll give you this one incident. It sort of really touches you, right? And I think, yes, the downside is I'm making much less money than I used to when I used to work in my corporate career. But the biggest high for me are these events where random people come and give you some amazing story, right? I had this individual called Gurpreet Singh. He's following me on Instagram. I met him in Mohali in February this year. And I came and I just asked him because he was just looking completely, he was exhausted, and he looked as if he had a blast. And I said, how was it? He said, I loved it. Just wanted to say thank you. I said, you're most welcome. I said, thank you for coming. He said, no, thank you for giving me a distraction. I said, for what? He said, when I came in last year, I could only do 14 of the 15 obstacles. And by the way, the course is tough, right? It is tough. It will push you. It's very different than when you came to Ludhiana. It's actually moved up a couple of notches up. And he said, I did 14 out of 15 obstacles, and there is this one obstacle called the summit, which is a 15-feet curved wall. It's not everybody's cup of tea. You can't really do it unless you have upper body strength. And he says, I came back and I said, no matter what, I'm going to train harder than ever before and come back next year and do it. 3 weeks after the event, he gets to know he has cancer. And he said, for me, the only distraction for the next 11 months, because you went live with your calendar on 1st of April, was that I'm going to train. I'm not going to let this thing break me. I'm going to come back, in the month of February this year, and I'm going to do the Devil Circuit. And And he says, I did it, and the only thing I want to give to you is he took off his kada and he gave it to me. And I said, this is like the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I can't thank you enough. I've actually put it in a safe because I didn't know how else to respond to something like this. But these are the stories of normal people doing extraordinary things, and which have a profound effect on other people when they hear this. When you see someone like him, beat cancer. I mean, he still obviously takes 3 years before he's going to be completely free. But he's motivated to get stronger, fitter, and be an inspiration for everybody else. I think more people in this room will be inspired to be like him than watching, a celebrity do something which is make-believe.
Now, probably from two communities to one community which probably majority of us relate to, which is music. Tarsame, I know for long. I been to his IPs and I enjoy his IPs a lot. And Bollywood Music Project, probably the first of its kind, only Bollywood music festival in India. And then now this year, third edition of All About Music, which I think is a very, very different ball game on people who enjoy music. So Tarsame, I want to hear from you, I can't ask you the question why. Everybody knows you are in this field and that's your core strength. But how has been the journey and how you build it up? And then it will be great if you can talk about a little bit about why All About Music as well.
Thanks, Mandeep. First of all, let me give my respect to Vinith. Vinith, I also need money. Hi, Sanjay. Thanks for doing all this. So, Mandeep, let me get into my Desi mode because I'm a more Desi guy.
Bindas.
If I try to speak too much in English, I might not be able to say what I mean. So, मैं Guwahati से हूँ. From Guwahati, moving into Bombay, I've done the journey being an anchor, event manager, then artist manager, and finally artist manager started doing good. As an artist manager, we were the first company who were managing musicians only. The focus was on music. And fortunately, out of the hits we took, Adeeb became a super success story, and then everything else followed. Now, as a personality, I have a problem that every 2-3 years I get into a different mode where I don't feel excited about my work. And I want to explore something. It's a genuine problem, since ever. Okay? So, जब वो problem शुरू हुई कि यार अभी artist management चालू हो गया, कि करें क्या मतलब? What's next? So I was attending all the festivals, NH7 attend किया, December attend किया, कोचेला के बारे में सुना, Tomorrowland के बारे में सुना. और इंडिया में म्यूजिक सबको पता है कि बॉलीवुड सबसे ज़्यादा कंज्यूम होता है. I always used to wonder कि यार बॉलीवुड म्यूजिक सबसे ज़्यादा कंज्यूम होता है, बॉलीवुड म्यूजिक का फेस्टिवल क्यों नहीं है? There was no specific reason actually. So when we got into a little research, we got out that कि लोग टिकटें नहीं खरीदते. Nobody wants to pay for Bollywood because शादियों में मिलता है, corporate shows में मिलता है, government free shows करवाती है. You don't want to pay. B, there is a huge ego issue between artists. It is very difficult to get Bollywood popular artists on common platform. Slots का झगड़ा है और ये और वो. That's why people don't want to get into it. And 3, it's very commercially very high on the cost. So obviously I did my research and I realized that ये मेरी औकात का नहीं है, तो मैंने plan cancel कर दिया. But like how I am passionate about music, Deepak is passionate about money. Fortunately, we got into a conversation, and I remember it's an EEMA conversation only. There was EEMA in Lalit, if I'm not wrong, 2016. No, Bombay, Delhi. So, and I said, no, yaar, Deepak, I don't know what to do because itna paisa nahi hai. मैं घर नहीं बेचना चाहता अभी सुबह में. So then we met again and we came with a proposition whereby I did my. 6 महीने किया है साहब. So, and it's a coincidence that I was planning about this, and I had no clue. He once suddenly came that, listen, I have an idea. I said, that's an idea I've been working for a year now, but I'm just worried about paisa kahan se aayega. Paisa kahan se aayega. It's a huge expensive event. So finally, I was lucky. I got a great partner who invested majority of the money, and I could do what I do best, the curation and all the other things. That's how BMP came into picture. There were a lot of hurdles. If I start, it will take an hour. I don't want to get into that. But BMP has been a really exciting journey. And if you ask us about our achievement, whatever tickets we sold, say maybe 3,500 in the first year or 6,000 in the second year, and now it's growing. The biggest achievement is the artist village, which we create. In BMP, if you go, you all are event managers and you must have dealt with artists, how difficult it is when you have two artists. कि इस आर्टिस्ट का रूम छोटा है, उसका बड़ा है, इसकी गाड़ी ऐसी है, उसका रूम में सोफा है, उसके रूम में सोफा नहीं, a lot of challenges. So what we created an artist village between two stages, and there was simple octagon green rooms, but we ensured to promote, to convince every artist, like there are about 60 acts, so almost about 350 musicians, singers, composers all together. It's a huge number. So we created a huge artist village area, common for everybody, and where you have live Maggie, biscuit, chai, and that entire like an independent musician fraternity. How you have the conversation which happens there from 2 o'clock to 10 o'clock. That's our biggest achievement. You would not see those artists mingling, talking to each other like this, hugging each other, having conversations. Then one artist felt so good around that conversation, he went on to another's act on stage. So let's assume Raftar is doing an act and Vishal Dadlani suddenly went on stage and performed an impromptu set. There are a lot of conversations like that happened, and that's I think is our biggest achievement, that the fraternity started loving what we are doing, and that's how we also got support of more and more artists and more people, and it's growing. That's about BMP. All about music, it's further interesting. So I was feeling stagnant as an entrepreneur. कि म्यूजिक में अगर आपने मैनेजमेंट कर लिया, ये भी कर लिया, अभी आगे सीखेगा, कोई एजुकेशन का प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं. And to do that, I used to travel to all the conferences in the world, Music Matters, MIDEM. And again the struggle was, India is such a huge country. It's 1.2 billion people. The music industry was about 16th in the world. But why don't Indian music industry have a conference where people come together? I am an artist manager, so I always think on behalf of the artist. Okay, and I feel that the artists are the creator of music industry. If content creators do not create music, the music industry आगे चलेगी नहीं. शुरू तो content creators होते हैं. And most of the content creators are not even aware about how the industry functions. India is purely dependent on live shows. Managers are booking agents. There's a hell lot of confusion. Not too many people know about publishing rights, linear rights, underlying rights, recording rights, and so many things. So I thought there is a requirement, and while fulfilling this requirement, I will also learn more about the music industry. That was the whole idea. So I thought, even if I lose money, I will feel that I did an MBA by investing some money. एक साल में काम हो जाएगा. And that was the whole idea why we music. I remember Gagan was the first one. I called him that, listen boss, I need venue for free. Can you do it? So when we started All About Music, we only thought about few things in mind. That in the conferences which I had attended in India, it was more about parties, functions, artists performing this and that. So as a person who really believed in the concept, I thought that can we create content which the audience will love. A. B. I do not want to promote free entry. Can I push people to pay for their tickets? So I remember I called all my friends, most of the friends, and I said, boss, one thing I'm requesting you. A. I do not want to take sponsorship because I'm bad at it, extremely bad. I lost one client for BMP once. I remember Deepak put me in touch with a client. I can't name that client for BMP, and I spoke generally how I speak. That sir, अगर आप sponsorship करना चाहते हैं तो आप खुल के बात करें, घुमा फिरा के क्यों बात कर रहे हैं? He felt offended and he cancelled all their outdoor reel as well. So I said, since I'm bad at it, let me not approach. I said, let me not try to approach sponsorship. Can we build a model on ticketing only? Difficult one, but I think. Whenever you're doing an IP and if you're passionate about it, sports, adventure, money, music, whatever kind of IP you do, if you're passionate about it, slowly a group of people start believing in you. Okay, if you're serious, passionate, you're clear about your IP, first 10 people start believing in you. Those 10 people turn to 50, 50 people turn to 100, 100 people turn to more people, and I think that's a process. What I told all my friends that listen, everybody expect a free pass. So I always used to tell them that, boss, take 15,000 rupees from me, but buy a pass online. Nobody takes 15,000 rupees from you, trust me. It's a good idea. And most people started buying and putting it on the post. We interacted with more than 500 people for the IP. Artists, corporates, publishing guys, music labels, social media companies. Each and every stakeholder of the music industry, we got in touch with everybody to understand what do you need. And the only thing which we tried to see when we created the whole agenda, do we have enough content for each of these stakeholders? Number one. Number two, is it interesting for them or not? Is it a content which we want to make people listen to, or is it a content which people really want to listen and people really have a problem? So by doing all these things, we were very scared people will come or not, people don't have a habit of coming on time. And I remember first year, 9:30 a.m. in the morning, Sabas was there, Vijay Nair, very close friend of mine, who is one of the biggest entrepreneurs in music. He was there, sir, and everybody was there. And at 9:30 in the morning, we had about 300 people in the conference. And we had breakout sessions at 10:30. By 10:30, we had about 800 people. And it was looking like Darayash station. And we all were scared because your IP, so many people come, something wrong happens because you're not mentally prepared for so many people. In fact, we stopped the registrations 2 days prior just to create the hype, honestly. I said, if somebody hasn't bought ticket 2 days prior, I don't want that person to come. That was the feeling. And we said, whatever number of people we have, it's fine. Let people feel the pain of wanting to come to an event, and you're not allowed to because you delayed your decision. Okay, so we did a lot of things like that. So finally, I requested all our friends that listen, bhai, हम लोगों का चेहरा लोग थोड़ा जानते हैं. Let's do one thing. 2 people go to each room and try to handle the situation in a way. We'll change the format tomorrow, or shift bigger rooms or smaller rooms and stuff like that. And we should do that, and we did that actually. And finally, everybody was happy because the content was good. And I remember one of our room, the main room, which had a capacity of 100, 125 people. There were about 250 people in that room. Everybody was sitting down, somebody was sitting on the console, and that's how it happened. So I'm thankful. That's the journey of All About Music. We are in the 3rd year now. I think we are lucky that nobody else tried it before us. Okay, किसी और ने कर लिया तो हम नहीं कर पाते. I feel lucky that the idea which we had really worked, and I think that's what the journey is.
Cool. Tarsame, I remember, and I really like 2 things. One, I completely agree. If nobody should ask for a free pass and nobody should give a free pass. I think that's the first thing. One thing which I really found interesting, which was a little different from what Martin and Adnan said, you created the whole platform of BMP for the actually consumer, which is people who want to enjoy Bollywood music. But in return, you got a great traction from the people who were creating the content, which is the fraternity. And they started enjoying this platform in a different way, and hence giving much more to the audience. So it's actually 2 ways thing. There was a probably need for them to be part of something like this, and eventually then the consumer.
So honestly, till now, Deepak will not like if I'm saying that. हमको audience से बहुत ज़्यादा interest अभी भी आना शुरू नहीं हुआ है. लेकिन every time we announce BMP, we have more artists who wants to perform at BMP than the audience who wants to buy a ticket. Still.
Super. So we missed 2 things. Adnan, when is the first Devil Circuit? We announced the dates for the IBW.
I'll have to take 10 seconds. Announce the dates. Yes, I will.
Your dates for in Delhi, Devil Circuit.
Our season for this year starts in September 8th in Chennai, and we go across the country. We end the season in March in Delhi, which is 15th of March.
Okay, done. Bollywood Music Festival dates.
Bollywood Music Festival date I don't know yet. Deepak has to tell. He hasn't decided which dates he wants to do. I think 7th and December is Bombay. 22nd December is Bombay. Confirmed. And February we are planning for Delhi. We haven't finalized the dates. All About Music is already running. We are doing 12 cities previews this time. We already finished 8 cities yesterday. Primarily to empower the young artists in each of the cities. We took some really interesting brands like YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Believe, Anand Khimani, Saregama to primarily tell the young artists, emerging artists from those cities that how they can connect with these brands and actually get funding for their content, distribute their content, know about how you can use streaming platforms, dashboard and stuff like that. Our main event is on 27th and 28th of August. Guys, if you don't come, you'll really miss it, trust me.
That's true. That's true, completely. He just threatened some of us to hijack me and my family are great admirers of All About Music. I think if you're interested in the business of music, it makes all sense. We've heard 3 of them, and all 3 of them wanted their freedom, get rid of the marketeers, wanted to create something for the ordinary, were fond of music and wanted to see, मैं और क्या कर सकता हूँ. But this guy, the 4th guy, is somebody whom I'm really curious about. How many of you have heard of a guy called Bharat Shah in Bollywood? एक time आता था that when the movie title used to come, there used to be Bharat Shah presents, Bharat Shah presents, Bharat Shah presents. Deepak Choudhary has 14 or 15 IPs which he has. Windmill Festival, IP Conclave, Kids Fashion Week, Edutainment are some of them. His latest one is Social Nation. Something which I also relate to is India Bridal Fashion Week. I am not going to ask you why, and I am not. Dates will do. I'm not going to ask you why.
It's money, nothing else.
So I'm not going to ask you why. But they are doing it out of, at least they are fond of that thing. People talked about that. You must have that as an interest, must have as a passion. You're doing it as a business, right? It's a different lens. I want you to talk about that lens.
Hello. Hi everybody. Okay, so the business started as an opportunity. I think opportunity was there was no company which was only doing IPs. I think the first sense of was that it was clear. I was not an event manager. I was not passionate about one particular category. I said let's make it a business. Now, one part of it is identify that passionate person and make a business out of it. I identified those passionate people who are living that dream, who are being in that industry or category for very long, okay, and see their passion, identify the TG they have identified or they have been working for very long. Identify this TG. It is important. If you create an IP, you should know that one particular TG you are creating this IP for. And that one TG, this one person I've identified, I'm creating an IP for this one person. As soon as you identify who delivers best to that particular person or a TG, find that passionate person. Now Tarsame was there was no reason to do Bollywood music project if Tarsame was not there. Now his passion, and it doesn't make money sense sometime, but his passion of thinking, passion of doing the right thing, I think makes what is an IP. So a definition of IP is very clear, is that passionate person's perseverance to get it right and keep doing it. I think that's what makes an IP. Okay, so that's one part. Coming to the business part of it, all the IPs, like let's say for example, I'll give you an example of Social Nation. It's a new piece from from the House of Event Capital. We've been seeing from last 2 years, 3 years, there is new community which is born, which is YouTubers, which is content creators, which are influencers. There is Instagram, who are people, we follow a lot of Instagrammers. We realized there was no festival in this space. And we've just launched a festival called Social Nation in this space. There are going to be 80 influencers slash YouTubers on 19th and 20th of October at Geo Gardens, Mumbai. I have not created this. This is a passionate person who manages most of them, a company called One Digital. Yeah, so there is no, the greatness in an idea comes about that person. So the business of mine is to identify this person who spend enough time. And then there is a great team at Event Capital who one person, one IP completely focuses, keeps growing. We've created an economy of scale. Now, anybody wants to do an IP, do with us, okay? Because we have an economy of scale. Now, because the media you will buy will be cheaper. The anything you will buy will be cheaper because we buy 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 40 times. And that's where the ecosystem we've created.
Even if you buy anything for the first time, it will be cheap.
So there are people who wanted to create an IP, wanted to do something. Here's a gentleman who said, I wanted to spot people. Here's Deepak saying, I just want to identify people who want to create an IP and I'm willing to invest behind them and add to their muscle in terms of resources and this thing. And I think what better than this panel, Deepak throwing an invitation openly to all the people who want to start an IP. I see customer engagement already happening. I have 2 more questions, but go ahead, please.
So my question is, you're like a VC fund for IPs. You invest in them to take a stake, or what is the
Question. See, I'll tell you where I missed one point. So say for example, we were talking about it. As Martin said, okay, if you have that one sponsor, I'm interested in you actually. Let's make it commercially viable. So we are not a VC fund. It is basically, if we are not interested in you creating something which you don't belong to, okay? If you spend enough time in one particular category, we'll have your skin in the game. You will put money, okay? You will put your life in it, okay? And we'll come with you. We will put our monies, we'll put our time, we'll put our team. But it has to be enough passion. It can't be a great idea immediately, yeah? So if you spend enough time on that category for enough time, years, and if you're thinking that, we'll come along. That's
if I can, they are strategical investors, but they want your skin in the game as well. They're not VC for sure. I know how VC function, and I think today is not the climate that we talk about VCs under what has happened in the last 2 years. DC, yeah, not VC. I have 2 more questions, and after that, I want that you should interact and ask the relevant things. The 2 questions probably, and I'm going to split it. I want to know the role of digital in amplifying the IP. Today, IP is not about what happens on that particular day at that very moment, but it's much more. It's cultivating how IPs sustain over a longer period of time. The community gets some more, thing going for them. So I'm going to ask probably Martin, you, Adnan, you, Tarsame, how digitally quick things which you can tell us, how important is digital to keep the IP going and what is the food for thought?
Well, I mean, I can give you a direct example that's literally just happened. TV channel, big TV channel, wants to get involved in India Bike Week. Comes to me, and says, big deal, money coming in. Obviously, we want exclusivity. I'm like, well, of course, you want exclusivity on your TV, and we want exclusivity for TV and for OTT, so Netflix, etc. We say, okay, fine. Then they say, you also have to guarantee that no content that you create will be longer than 3 minutes. We say, okay, fine. Then they say, you have to also guarantee that everyone at the festival that's there can't create more content over 3 minutes, or will come after them legally. So we said, no, hang on a minute, no, wait. This is not the World Cup cricket. This is India Bike Week. The only reason people are at the festival is to fucking film themselves, right, and to create content for their friends. So it's not the World Cup. And they were adamant about it. Their lawyers were adamant. They were saying, no, you have to. This is what you have to sign off on, and you have to agree to go after whoever breaks this rule legally with us. So we've essentially told them to get lost, go away, leave us. I mean, there's just in this. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have teenage kids. I've got a 15-year-old son. I don't think he's watched a 30-second commercial in a decade now. He just doesn't watch. He doesn't care. Yeah, and if he comes across advertising, he flicks it off immediately, which puts us obviously in a great position, right? I mean, that's especially what Adnan's doing. I mean, you know, the millions that he's talking about. We're sort of 500,000. It's a relatively small market, biking still, but the importance of digital is vastly more important than traditional press these days. I mean, honestly, we don't care if Times Media doesn't come. I mean, I just don't care. But if the bike influencers don't come, that's a disaster. And that's what we said to this TV channel. We said, you know, without the influencers, there's no point doing the event, right? And in fact, we make such an effort that we fly in, like I'd imagine most of us do for our events, we fly in influencers and we create a specific part of the festival just for them and their audiences. And it's great fun. They all fight and argue, and it's anarchic, and we encourage that because that's the internet, right? I mean, that's what modern life is about. That's what modern consumption, content consumption is about. So yes, that was the example.
Adnan, will you like to add?
No, I think we're lucky that we latched onto the power of digital a couple of years ago, and we've benefited tremendously. I only have 5 people in my sales team, and now these 5 people are going around selling 40,000 plus tickets, primarily because, you know, people are tagging other people and they're talking about the experience. So if you look at, for example, the 3 biggest running properties in the country with the 8.5 Marathon, the Mumbai Marathon and the Devil's Circuit, because of the experience that we give to people, the fact that we can make them feel like superstars, people feel the need to go to our social handles and say thank you and tag other people, which actually allows us to talk to so many more people. So for us, we're moving completely away from print. I apologize if anybody's here from Times of India. We're moving away from television, and we're focusing more on outdoors, and we're focusing more on digital. I think those are the 2 mediums that we're using extensively this year. And we have, luckily, the buy-ins of all our current sponsors who see the value of what digital is bringing to the table here. In fact, our television shows moved to digital because the television channels were not in a position to give us real data that I could present to my sponsors and say, hey, at this point on prime time, so many people watch this show, and you know, this is the reason why you should pay me so much. When I moved to digital, my show went from whatever 5,000 subscribers to 118,000 subscribers, 38 million views. We got an award from YouTube for hitting the silver button milestone, which is 100,000 milestones, so 100,000 subscribers. So yes, it gives you that real ammunition to go back and sell your product better.
I think we can't touch that topic here, but people who are in this room because they're serious about IPs, digital IPs is another way which is coming and which is making substantial steps. Tarsame, what is your take on something which is already popular on the digital version, which is music? What is your experience with how digital help you to cultivate your?
For me, I think digital is everything. So I've done one IP with Deepak, a Bollywood music project, and what I realized that there are only 3 reasons why we promote anything. A, to reach to the target audience. B, to amplify the brands to a larger landscape. And C, to please the sponsors. Okay. And when I did all about music, so I said, yeah, it's not something which I like. That's why the reason no sponsorship in the first year. We said our target audience is only 1,000 people, and we have a music industry which has about 1 million people. Okay, million people. Now to reach those million people, if you want to put newspaper ads, codings, and do all the traditional media, you can spend up to 2 crores rupees, and still you might not be able to reach your communication. What we spent in the first year of our conference was 2 lakh rupees in total, including all social media and digital campaigns. And it actually reached out to the right set of people. And I realized that if I would have spent 50 lakh rupees on promotion, it was primarily to justify that if I'm asking 1 crore rupees from you as a sponsor, how are we elevating that brand and stuff like that. So I didn't get into that thing, and it really worked. And honestly, when the IP developed value, a sponsor or anybody do not pay money just for the promotion. they pay money for the value of the IP. That was an approach we wanted to take. And this year, we have great sponsors. We have 11 sponsors. The second approach which we did was that we are not taking any major sponsor in the conference. We don't sell like a presenting sponsor or something like that. In generally, unless the number is big, because it is easier to have 20 young, not small, 70 partners who actually makes a lot of money together. Even if 2 people moves out, it doesn't matter to you. The biggest challenge with a key sponsor, which I have seen and experienced with a lot of my friends, that you are at the mercy of that sponsor throughout. What he feels right, what he feels wrong. He doesn't have a good mood today, and he came to your event. I mean, recently I can't name the incident, but we actually have an incident in one of our events where one of the sponsors didn't have a good mood that day, and he just didn't like something. And we, me, Deepak, we all spent about 6 hours that night, some 2 weeks later then,
उसका वोट नहीं करने के लिए?
to handle that thing. To handle that thing, because that is 30% of our overall sponsorship. You understand? So for me, digital is everything. I think digital allows you to reach to the targeted audience. I remember first time when we did Google retargeting, a lot of my friends used to call me, "अरे तेरा Amazon पे ad आ रहा है यार." तो मैंने नहीं, Amazon पे ad दिए नहीं हम लोगों ने. So Google retargeting is a system whereby if somebody looks on to your ad, whatever apps they are using or whatever website they go into, your ad goes there, and that's cheap. I mean, so the perception is larger. I think it's bad for a lot of industries, but for honestly, IPs like we are creating digital is the way. It gives you a huge return in a very less investment. Also, people like to connect. Like we did a campaign called I Am All About Music. We said, what is that thing which people don't have ego promoting? When it is my company, my IP, not people might not like to promote it. Right? Why should I promote somebody else's IP? And what he also said, if you remember, people connect to the IP as their own. They don't treat it your own IP, somebody else's IP. So when we created that campaign actually gave us traction more than anything else what we did. So everybody who was participating in the conference, say let's assume 800 people posted on their social media walls by saying, Parijat Kaushik, I am all about music. Deepak Choudhary, I am all about music. So digital is the way, in a short.
Yeah, of course, Martin, go ahead.
Just, it's interesting. What I find very interesting. 6 years ago, I entered India Bike Week. 20 sponsors, roughly this year, 25 maybe. And it's been like that for, 6 years now. And India Bike is interesting because it was 2013 till today, so it's kind of straddled that rise of social media and digital, that very rapid rise with Geo and the rest of it. I can't remember a single social media campaign worth a damn from a single sponsor at India Bike Week. And they've all tried them, right? They're all talking the digital game, the social media game, the engagement game, but they're shit at it. They're really, really shit, right? And it just doesn't work. Whatever they try doesn't work. Whereas we don't try very hard. We're event managers, right? So we kind of understand digital. We've got, you know what us event managers do. We just hire some 25-year-olds and say, go on, there's digital. Right? And it works, right? I mean, because then it's a biker who's 25, and he's brilliant at it. And he's talking to 250 biking clubs, and they've all got their own YouTube channels, and all that. And the amount of the volume of amazing content that's created out of India Bike Week that gets watched by literally millions. I mean, we don't even bother keeping a tab on it. We probably should, but it's been watched by millions across the world, by the way, about these crazy Indian bikers coming from, the far northeast and the southern tip and so on, all the way to Goa on bikes in 3 days, like wild-eyed lunatics. It's amazing, right? Amazing stuff. The brands can't do it. They just can't do it. And whenever they try to do it, they fuck it up because they're just too conservative, too worried, too scared, don't invest enough in it. they have no skin in the game. And we're talking about sponsors in Dubai who are putting 40, 50, 60 lakhs as a fee in, and then they have to spend another 40, 50 lakhs building their stalls. You know, they're spending crores. But they don't know how to, they just don't know how to do it. That's another reason why we are super modern, us IPR people. We're at the cutting edge, right? And that's another good reason to do that.
So I think we're running really short of time. I want to open the house for questions. I have 2 questions, but I'm going to hold it till I want to listen to you guys. Any questions from anyone? Anyone? Yeah, please go ahead. Can we have a mic here?
Do we have more?
No, that's okay. Thanks.
I think we started looking back, then now our focus is only on DC.
Even Hollywood is focusing on DC only.
Okay, how many cycles? I know it's not an easy thing to answer, but we just wanted to have a ballpark figure of how many editions is required as a gestation period.
रोकड़ा कब आता है? कितने editions के बाद रोकड़ा आता है? Just keep it simple, please.
So it depends on IP to IP. There's no formula to it. Depending on what vision you are seeing in the beginning. Let's say, for example, for starting people, I'm saying this comment before answering that question. Try with branded IPs. Now, what is this branded IP? Is try to get one sponsor partner. As soon as you have one brand with you,
I've got something to say about this, by the way. Go on, Deepak.
Say.
I see things getting.
Yeah, so that is one way to look at it. But again, Martin, like passionate people, I think they don't care and want to get into. Now, he said that he planned for it, that it will take 3 to 5 years, and they planned those losses. And the investment kept coming down, okay? Coming to our festivals, in the beginning, we invest in it. We keep the cost right. I'm saying you can be passionate about it, think cost before spending. There is no limit to spending in a festival. Okay, so keep that cost right. It takes in a sensible manner if you've got depends on a category. Social Nation, we are making profit in the year 1. Okay, because everybody wants to latch on the digital or influencers. Okay, a Bollywood music project, we've invested for 3 years, we've not made money. So it depends on what IP you're getting in. Okay, like for example, small kids festival, we do a festival called India Kids Fashion Week. We're doing 11 cities. We've registered 10,000 kids, paying us 2,000 rupees. Final selection, we select 3,000 kids. They pay another 8,000 rupees. So 4.5 crores. We've registered kids worth 4.5 crores. I don't need sponsors. So increase the dependence on subscription then sponsorship. So you have to keep thinking about there is no formula. And IP can be out of anything. So that's the point.
Yeah, and just to add to that, you should break even in your 3rd year. That should be a target. I mean, you know, so
Good benchmark. Good benchmark.
that is the benchmark actually, and it should be. I mean, with India Bike, we business planned, and we were very careful about it. And this is where Deepak is absolutely right. You business plan in advance. You set your budget, your cost, right? Because your revenue will fluctuate randomly according to external conditions entirely out of your control, right? But you do know your costs, and you absolutely stick to them. You don't go about, because it's so easy to romanticize an IPR, but you just stick to them. And generally the costs are 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, right? I mean, it's 1/3 marketing, 1/3 content, 1/3 production. That's how you know, right? That's the sort of formula. And bear in mind, the other thing I was telling Adnan a little bit earlier, when we were talking about this, and I've been in India for 24 years now. And I've set up multiple businesses, Olive, Bar and Kitchen, etc., etc. IPRs that didn't work, IPRs that did work. There is one rule of thumb that I've noticed, and it's both negative and positive, but overall positive, which is that whatever you do, especially in the IPR space, you will make half the money you're planning to make, right? Right? And it will take you twice as long as you think, right, as your business plan. But the flip side of that is that you do inevitably make that money. And that's the positive side, which is unlike anywhere else in the world. India, I think, really rewards patience and hard work more than any other country I've ever worked in or been to. Yeah.
Adnan, do you agree with this 3rd year break-even thing?
Well, it took us 5 years. We turned a profit last year. So it took us slightly longer, but I think I don't know, maybe my approach was slightly different, but we tried to create something out of nothing, in the sense the concept was very disruptive. Not many people understood the idea of an obstacle race. We had a lot of sponsors who I said no to, because I would go and ask money. They would say, no, we don't have money, you can have water. You don't have money, you can have a t-shirt. We don't have money, you can have some other freebie. And so we were a little mule-headed, and rightfully so, because we never wanted to get into any barter deals. And the reason was, most of these are large companies, and if you did a barter deal in year 3 or year 4, regardless of where the property went, subsequent years, it will be very difficult for you to change that. So, we said no. Like, for the last 3 years, I can mention this, I've been saying no to thumbs up every year, and we keep coming around and talking, and they keep saying, kuch tufani karna hai, that's the thumbs up tagline is just perfect. And I said, instead of paying, I don't know if it's Hrithik Roshan or Ranveer Singh, whoever it is, just pay us 110 and we'll give you a better platform for experiential marketing where people can talk about it. Let that ordinary guy do something extraordinary and he'll use your hashtag automatically. But, it is what it is.
Any more questions, please?
Sorry, just to answer Deepak's point that I have an issue with about that single sponsor thing. That single sponsor bullshit thing, he said. The 70mg, as a lot of you know, we kind of specialise in doing in developing IP for clients. Right? We've done a lot of it. The Skoda Prize for Contemporary Art, etc. Lots of them. I can't remember the brands. I think it was Adidas, Reebok. One of the athleisure brands. Horrible word. But they wanted us to do exactly what you do. Right? So they came to us and we said, okay, well, this is what we're going to charge. And they showed us kind of what they want to do. We did this fantastic sort of obstacle course, and they got involved in it, and they said, we're going to do it for 5 years. We were like, okay, cool, so we won't make a profit from it from this year, and we'll sort of co-own it with you. And I can't tell you how many times this has happened, right? It ended in the second year, right? Skoda Prize for Contemporary Art became briefly, I did it for 4 years for Skoda, it briefly became the 3rd most important contemporary art prize in the world. I mean, it was being covered globally. Skoda pulled out after 3 years, and in the 4th year, right? Just pulled out. Talk to Sanjoy Roy about the Jaipur Literary Festival. I mean, it's a shit show. It's 3 years of this guy, and 3 years of that guy. I don't, with the exception of the Tarsame Open, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know any other IPR that has consistently kept the same title sponsor. So beware, right? Plan around that. Plan for it. That marketing guy that loves children's fashion, weird, won't be there in 3 years' time. He'll have gone to America or Singapore. And the guy or the girl that takes over from him will hate children's fashion. And then they will pull out. So, beware.
I'm seeing Deepak itching. I'll give you 15 seconds.
I want to continue the thing. Just one. No, not the fuel. To be honest, I'm saying very bluntly and openly, there are 2 ways you earn money, right? One from your audience participation and one from your sponsorship. If you have audience participation and their interest in your IP, you will have sponsors for sure, don't worry. Even if you have sponsors, you might not have audience participation. That is a problem. Okay. Getting sponsor is good, but if you don't have the audience participation and interest for your IP, it's not going to sustain. Paying audience, of course. You should not be dependent on sponsorship. I mean, that's my honest thing. Until and unless your IP is 2 crores, the sponsor is paying you 4 crores. You're making 2 crores out of it. Great. Even if it doesn't continue, it's fine. You made money.
You want anything?
No, I'm good. Actually, I just want to make one, since Martin and me are together on this platform, I'm in this industry because of Martin DaCosta. I think I just want to tell everybody. I was a volunteer in Martin's wedding. Okay, so I did. Yeah. So Martin, कोई IP करेगा ना मेरे साथ? Tension करेगा. Martin, you have to do an IP with me now. So.
Any more questions, please? Yeah, right.
Quick question to TM and DC.
When we talk about the music festival, I've realized that when we talk about Tomorrowland or Magnetic Field, we have a digital online Book My Show having a queue. Why is it that BMP and all the Indian IPs are not having, digital queues for such events? What is it that we are lacking? Is it the Indian mentality, or what is it that we need to change to actually sell tickets for a festival like BMP or any other food festival for the band?
So honestly speaking, the problem is in the IP creators. The problem lies in us. There is an audience. Audience are okay to pay. The same audience who is not paying for BMP is paying for something else where you do not even have those kind of artists. So do we have audience who has the ability to pay? Yes. Do we have audience who loves that kind of music? Yes. It's us who are not able to get into people's mind right. To be very honest, it's as simple as that. There is no problem in the audience. The same people, when we do an Arijit concert, buys tickets for 3.5-4 crores, correct? But the same audience, when we do Arijit in a music festival, does not buy that quantity of tickets. Okay? We have to understand our audience much better. That why would that audience pay 2,000 rupees, and why would that audience spend 2 days of their life, which is extremely important. They have 10 some other options. Why should they come to the festival? If we are able to rework on those items, for example, like NS7 has been happening since a lot of years. The first year there were only 500,000 people or 2,000 people. If you ask 100 random people from NS7, what do they remember about NS7? They don't remember the artists. They don't remember the production. What do they remember? I picked up my friend from Andheri East. We drove down to Pune. Raste mein 4 beer piya, mast ekdam. Oh, so those are memories. If your festival or IP is allowing your audience to engage with the IP and have wonderful memories and experience, that's why they come to the event. That's my honest view of all the experiences I've seen.
Yeah, 5 years ago they did a survey of the well over 1.5 million people who go to UK music festivals. There's over 75 music festivals in the UK, and they asked them, why did you come? And the answers were ranked. The number one reason why people came to that festival was the other people that were there. Right? That's why they're at the festival. That's why you're at Glastonbury. You're there obviously to hear the music, but there's tons of music, right? You're not there to hear a specific artist. You're there because of the other people. You're there because of the energy, the vibe. And you're absolutely right. We don't produce events which are good enough on the whole. The venues aren't good enough. The production values aren't good enough. The registration experience isn't good enough, right? So for people to go and want to come back and meet you. I was at that Coldplay thing that was done with the government in Bombay, yeah. I mean, right, and I went, and I got Shailendra Singh got me a VIP pass and all that. But I walked in from the back. I mean, there was no water. It was a sea of dust. The sound was shit. It was just a shitty experience for most people. NH7 changed that for a lot of people. NH7, I think those boys can, they can take enormous credit for starting to change the way that young Indians, and let's face it, this is for young Indians, perceive the festival, the live IPR experience. But it's the start, it's the very, very start of it. Because it's only now that we're actually getting good at this. It's taken us too long to get good at it, basically. So that's one point. And I think the second point, so just very quickly, is that we underestimate the importance of pricing. If you're a 24-year-old kid and you're being asked to spend $800 as opposed to $400, that's actually quite a lot of money for you. That $400, it really is quite a lot of money. We all, because we're all in jobs, we're all in our 30s and 40s and 50s. $400, right? Who gives a shit? But for that 22-year-old, it's a lot of money. And I know this from Deepak.
Okay, I think we'll wind up with this. Thank you so much. I think I'm sure, and thank you so much, audience. Some very, very good takeaways. I like the 33, and I like you will make half the money in double the time.